Welcome to the Anime Audiophile Podcast. Please like and subscribe for more. Thank you. Naruto Retsuden, Naruto Uzumaki, and the Spiral Destiny. Chapter 4. So to sum up, Sasuke had moved beyond bad mood and crossed over into fully enraged as he sat cross-legged with his back against a beam. You let the ultra particles disappear before your very eyes to save the life of your enemy? Well, I guess so. Naruto scratched his cheek awkwardly. He really was truly and sincerely sorry for destroying the ultra particles Sasuke and Sakura had worked so hard to get from far-off Ridaku. But he felt like he hadn't had a choice. He couldn't let Fury die. The back room of Tammy's sweet shop. Chihara had been added to the usual lineup of attendees. When they heard the solemn news about the ultra particles' disappearance, they all dropped what they were doing to meet. Anyway, allow me to add, Chihara interjected tentatively, shrinking back at an already intimidating and suddenly scary Sasuke on her first meeting with him. The Lord Seventh came to rescue me, and I was the one initially deceived by Fury, so it's really Dash. I know that much, Sasuke interrupted. You be quiet. Thus rebuked, Chihara obediently fell silent. The vein that had popped up on Sasuke's forehead showed no signs of settling down. He was outraged that the village chief Naruto would prioritize those around him over his own life. No use crying over spilled milk. We need to figure out our next step. We're out of time here, Sakura said, trying to pacify Sasuke and bringing them back to square one. She had put together all the information each of them had brought back from the land of Ridaku, given Naruto another careful examination, and produced a hypothesis about his illness that she was fairly certain was accurate. As she had initially suspected, taking a Biju into his body was the source of Naruto's malfunctioning chakra channels. There was likely no mistake about that. Nine-Tails' chakra only flowed through Naruto's body when Nine-Tails made a decision to lend it to him. But in very rare cases, the repeated borrowing and lending of chakra could blur the boundary between the chakra belonging to Tailed Beast and chakra belonging to Jinchuriki, so that a minute amount of Tailed Beast chakra was continuously flowing through the body of the Jinchuriki. As this continued, Naruto's own chakra channels increasingly viewed the Nine-Tails chakra as foreign to his body and attempted to get rid of it by narrowing and closing his chakra channels. Naruto's episodes were a side effect of his chakra channels forcibly contracting over and over. It's been 2 weeks already since your last episode, right? Sakura asked, and Naruto nodded. The ceasing of episodes proves that your chakra channels are closing up. If they close completely, they probably won't recover, not even with the ultra particles. How much time do we have until they close completely? Sasuke asked. Judging from the results of this round of testing, I'd say 3 days, she said, the look on her face stern. 3 days. The blink of an eye. The lantern flame suddenly flickered in the windowless room, perhaps because someone let out the breath they were holding. There's still a way to get the ultra particles. There has to be, Shikamaru said, shifting his gaze from Sasuke to Sakura. Yes. The Sage of Six Paths split the ultra particles into 2 and hid them in the star that never strays and the sky that fell to the earth. We found the ultra particles sealed in the sky that fell to the earth, so if we can figure out the location of the star that never strays, we should be able to get the other half of the ultra particles. Sakura paused there, and her face grew dark. Most likely, the star that never strays was also in the land of Ridaku, just like the sky that fell to the earth. Even if they set out that very minute, Naruto's chakra channels would close up before they even neared the land of Ridaku. The last clue we have is this piece of straw paper. Shikamaru. Set out the paper with its fold lines on top of the tatami mat. Chihara craned her neck forward and peered at it. What is that? Oh, is this the first time you've seen it? Shikamaru asked. It was wedged into map of the heavens. It's just this one line saying the stars increased. We have no idea what it means. But I'm more curious about the Konohagakure mark. He stroked the swirling mark in ink with the pad of his finger. Until Kakashi sent his first letter, there was no direct communication between the lands of fire and Ridaku. About all each country knew of the other was faint rumors and utterings from travelers and merchants about a distant country. Both countries doubted that the other actually existed, and yet the glyph that signified the village of Konohagakure was discovered on a piece of paper in the land of Ridaku. It was too strange. At the academy, Master Irika taught us that the Konoha mark came from the tradition of shinobi who would train with a leaf on their forehead to focus their energy. Maybe this paper with the mark of Konoha on it means that the other half of the ultra particles is in the land of fire. That's probably wrong. All eyes in the room focused on Chihore. The whirlpool motif is used in countries all over at all points in history. It's plenty possible a similar symbol would pop up somewhere else. In Konoha, the whirlpool is a mark that expresses concentration of energy, but in the land of Ridaku, it might have a completely different meaning. So then what would that different meaning be? Shikamaru asked, annoyed, and Chihore looked directly at him. It was written in the ancient text, right? The Sage of Six Paths caught the meteor and split it. In which case, it could be that this drawing indicates the falling meteor, couldn't it? Meteor. Sakura took off her headband and looked intently at the familiar symbol with fresh eyes. She could actually maybe see something like a falling meteor in it. The upside-down triangle at the bottom left could be interpreted as the path of the meteor. But there's something not quite right for a symbol of a meteor, she said. It's a whirlpool, Naruto interjected. Orochimaru said so. In the land of Ridaku, the helix is a symbol of rebirth. But a meteor hasn't got anything to do with rebirth. Why draw something that only falls with a whirlpool? True, Sakura murmured. Map of the heavens was clearly written to tell later generations the location of the ultra particles. They must have had a reason for deliberately adding the whirlpool. A reason? Shikamaru put a hand to his chin and sank into thought. Naruto stared at the piece of paper and then slowly opened his mouth. Maybe the meteor was reborn? Chihore looked at Naruto. It didn't just fall and that was the end of it, he continued. The Sage of Six Paths returned half of the meteor to the sky. Used a jutsu to keep it going round and round forever, never pulling away from the earth, like the moon. Sakura and Shikamaru said nothing as they considered the possibility of what he was saying. The idea that half of the ultra particles were orbiting the planet was absurd on its face. But Naruto was brimming with confidence, nevertheless. Indeed, if it was going around the planet as a satellite, then the phrase "the star that never strays" suddenly made sense, and the stars increased also snapped into place. From the day the Sage of Six Paths launched the satellite, there would have been one more star in the night sky. Sakura groaned, a complicated look on her face. Say you're right. Then it would have to be fairly high up and moving completely differently from the other stars. That kind of celestial body exists. Chihore's voice suddenly rang out sharply in the small attic room. That celestial body exists. A celestial body much faster than the moon, spinning around this planet. She was sure of it. Chihore had observed such a celestial body with her own eyes any number of times. There's a body that passes through the sky directly above the land of fire in a fixed period. The orbit is 660,000 feet up. The next time it will be observable in Konohagakure is tomorrow night at 10 p.m. If you miss that, you won't be able to see it again for 6 months, Chihore said all in one breath, her cheeks reddening with excitement, and she looked around at the assembled faces. I did fairly detailed observations, so I can precisely identify the orbit. Do you have any records? Sakura asked. Maybe you could show them to us? Of course. I'll go get them. Chihore shook her head up and down and flew out of the attic room, panting, to get her notes. Naruto's theory took on a sudden flavor of truth. The other half of the ultra particles was going around this planet without straying as a satellite. If this preposterous theory was true, then how on earth were they supposed to get a hold of them? The whole group sank into thought. I'll build a pillar with Earth style, Kakashi said, breaking his long silence. Sakura, Sasuke. You two run up the pillar and carry Naruto to the top. You can make it if you use Chihire's system bike. Sakura'll be in charge of chakra control to ride up the vertical wall, and Sasuke will supply chakra to the engine. An Earth-style pillar 660,000 feet tall? Can you do that, Master Kakashi? Sasuke asked him doubtfully. I'll have to, Kakashi said, his tone light, and he crossed his arms. Although, my chakra might run out halfway through. Well, I've got an idea about who I can partner up with. So it's settled, Sasuke said firmly, and Shikamaru was forced to swallow the argument on the tip of his tongue. He was against this absurd plan. For Shikamaru, who was the type to look both ways and then double-check before he crossed the street, this plan was a nightmare come to life. But if Sasuke and Kakashi were on board, all that was left to do was carry it out. He let out a long sigh and looked squarely at Sasuke. Even if you do reach the satellite, how are you planning to undo the seal from there? The Ultra Particles vessel is likely sealed with the same wards as the one in the lake. I'll smash it. Sasuke's response was simple. Seriously? Shikamaru asked, incredulous. Of course, Sasuke answered evenly. He's not going to bend now. Shikamaru pressed a hand to his eyes with a bitter look on his face. I'll handle that. Right. Please and thank you. It was settled. The next night at 10 p.m., the satellite would pass directly above the training ground. Before it did, Kakashi would make a pillar of earth shoot into the sky, and Sakura and Sasuke would ride the bike up the side of it. 28 hours until mission start. Now that everything had been decided, the group started to stand, and Naruto stopped them. Dies. So, like. What, loser? Sasuke glared at him. You're not actually hesitating about us helping you again, are you? No. I'm okay with that. From where he sat cross-legged, Naruto put his hands on his knees and lowered his head. Thanks. I'm super counting on all of you. Kakashi and Sakura patted his shoulders from either side. The Hokage can't go bowing his head to just anyone. Shikamaru smiled wryly, and Naruto grinned with him. He wasn't bowing to just anyone. He was bowing to them. Chihire's observation records were impeccable, and Sakura and Shikamaru both gave them their seal of approval. There was no doubt that this star of hers was the Sage of Six Paths satellite. With everything sorted and settled, it was finally time to carry out the mission. They had to get moving as soon as possible to get ready. It would be suspicious to have a group like them seen moving together as one, so the party left the shop one by one at carefully timed intervals. Naruto to the Hokage's office to get a jump on his normal work in preparation for tomorrow night. Shikamaru to make arrangements to handle that. Kakashi to scout his partner. Sakura with Chihire to practice riding the bike. And Sasuke, he had nothing in particular to do, so he decided to go home right away and conserve his strength. Sasuke. He'd slipped through the back door and gone out into the alley when a voice called out to him. It was Hinata. This wasn't the sort of place she would have just happened to be passing by. She couldn't have ambushed Sasuke here unless she knew that he and the others were meeting in the hidden room of Tammy's sweet shop. What is it? He asked. Thanks for all the things you do for Naruto. Has she realized it then? Sasuke hid his consternation and kept his face expressionless as he peered at her. Naruto was keeping his illness a secret from his family. If she'd long ago picked up on it and said nothing because she respected Naruto's feelings, she was one incredible wife. I've done nothing you should thank me for. I'm only doing what I want to do, Sasuke said coolly and walked past her. Hinata lobbed something. Here. Once he caught it, he realized it was a headband with the mark of Konoha. Better to have something to protect your forehead, she told him. Sasuke stared at Hinata, a strange feeling coming over him. He'd never been good with her. She was always so timid and had no confidence in herself despite being a hard worker. She made it seem like she had no opinions of her own, always watching other people's faces, looking for the right thing to say or do. He used to get annoyed whenever he saw her. But during the time he'd been away from the village, Hinata had changed. Her core strength locked away inside of her reserved nature began to reveal itself. With that secret strength, she sometimes watched over Naruto, sometimes supported him, and before he knew it, she had married him. I'm not officially a Konoha shinobi. I can't wear dash. Make sure to give it back. Hinata interrupted Sasuke as he was about to return the headband to her and turned sharp eyes on him. I can't let my husband be responsible for your life too. He really was uncomfortable with this woman. The training ground, wrapped in the hazy red light of the setting sun. At the request of Kakashi, Yamato dropped his duties monitoring Orochimaru in order to be Kakashi's partner and learn about the absurd mission to send a pillar 660,000 feet up into the air. He stood there with a look on his face like he'd been forced to eat a live caterpillar. And you're doing this tomorrow? You're as reckless as ever, Kakashi? Ah, I'm just glad I have such an excellent comrade here with me, Kakashi said. That height, even I'll run out of chakra by the time it's halfway up. And there you go again. I'm getting on in years myself though, so I can't be swayed by flattery. Yamato retorted sharply, but his face relaxed into a smile. No matter how many years passed, he would always be happy to receive compliments from the older man he had long looked up to. Kakashi might have teased him with flattery, but it was a simple fact that he relied on Yamato. He was the rare man who could quietly handle a difficult and dull job that never garnered him any true glory. Yamato's powerful abilities and his humble steadfastness had saved Kakashi any number of times. About 310,000 feet is the most I can do with my wood style and still produce something strong enough to handle the system bike riding up it, Yamato told him. Even if I scrimp on the strength by half and combine with your earth style, Kakashi, I have my doubts about whether or not we could make it all the way to 660,000 feet. The issue isn't just the amount of chakra, Kakashi mused. They wouldn't get anywhere unless they gave it a try. The two shinobi stood facing each other in the center of the training ground. They considered a variety of ways to link earth and wood styles, but decided in the end on Yamato first producing a support pillar of wood which would be coated by Kakashi's earth style. It was a combined ninjutsu that required fine chakra control and a precise combination. Oh, I'll just throw it out, so you match me, okay? Kakashi said lightly. What? I understand. No, kidding. We'll work together. Yamato realized Kakashi was teasing him and frowned, looking not entirely displeased. They made eye contact again and then both of them slapped a hand against the ground at the same time. Bang! Earth style and wood style. Their two different chakras raced into the earth together. Boom! The thick trunk of a tree rose up first, a millisecond faster. Earth style crackled as it covered the tree, stretching up straight toward the heavens. But the earth wrapping around the tree was shooting up a tiny bit faster than the tree was growing. Once the pillar reached a height of 32,000 feet, the earth wall surpassed the tree trunk, lost its supporting pillar, and crumbled back down. Ah! It was already broken. Yamato shrugged, eyes turned upward chasing after the tip of the extending pillar. Well, the first attempt was always like this. Perfectly matching different ninjutsu normally required years of practice. Trying to complete this task in the span of a single night, no matter how skilled the two shinobi, was the absurdity Yamato was talking about. You're worried. I am too, Kakashi said in a light tone, perhaps guessing at Yamato's anxiety. There's nothing to do but try, right? Yamato gave voice to the words he expected from Kakashi next. It's for Naruto, after all. After returning to the Hokage's office, Naruto checked the documents piled on his desk and split them up into separate piles. Papers he'd stamped his seal onto, papers that couldn't be processed for one reason or another, and papers he would talk with Shikamaru about before deciding anything. He wanted the first stack to grow, but unfortunately, the 3 mountains remained basically equal. He lifted his gaze abruptly and met his own eyes in the window of his office. The glass, covered in a protective film, reflected the inside of the room less than it showed the outside, so he couldn't really see the scene on the other side. I wish I could go outside. Naruto looked over the mountains of documents in the glass and sighed deeply. He wanted to see the lights of the village. He wanted to sit on the rocky face of the 4th Hokage in the middle of the 7 faces and look down on the village. But he couldn't. He had to finish tomorrow's work tonight. Tomorrow night, his friends would bring him to the spot where the satellite would come. Maybe someone like you who grew up loved by the people around you can't understand that. Jiraiya's words came back to life in his ears. He had denied them, but it was true that he was blessed. With friends. And talent. Naruto stood and picked up the framed picture decorating his shelf. He took the back off and pulled out the other photo tucked away behind the photo of the 4 members of Team Kakashi. In the faded sepia world, Minato and Kushina were walking alongside each other. The photo had apparently been taken without their knowledge. Neither of them had their eyes turned toward the camera. Kushina was talking happily, walking slightly ahead of Minato, red hair swinging, and Minato was smiling as he looked at her back. Tsunade had given him this photo a long time ago. She'd found it among Jiraiya's things, but she didn't know who had taken it. Standing there, Naruto stared at the faces of his parents, who were younger than he was now. He had been bullied in the village and gained the power of 9 Tails chakra because Minato had sealed the 9 Tails, Kurama, inside of him. Because of that, Naruto got to meet Kurama. So then what if Kurama had never been inside of me? He tightened his grip on the photo in his hand, and wrinkles popped up around his mother's face in profile. He thought about this over and over since he learned that he might lose his chakra. Who exactly would he be with no chakra? What if his father hadn't sealed 9 Tails inside of him? What if Naruto had never had 9 Tails chakra? Would he still have been able to help his friends and fight his enemies? If he didn't have 9 Tails inside of him, he might not have become Hokage. No, you're wrong, a low voice replied inside of his head. Even if I wasn't here, you would have become Hokage. With your ninja path, never twisting your own words, and your impossible stubbornness, you would have pulled your comrades forward and saved your enemies. And the people would have accepted you and selected you as Hokage. It's me telling you this, so you know it's not wrong. You're awake then? Naruto said. You've been doing nothing but sleeping lately. Kurama sniffed indignantly. You think these silly thoughts woke me? I will sleep again now. Naruto knew himself that it was silly. If he didn't have Kurama, his parents would have lived, and he would never have been bullied in the first place. The Great Ninja War might not even have happened, and this would be a completely different world. There was no point in even thinking about it. There was no point, but... Hey, Kurama? Naruto said, but either Kurama really had gone back to sleep or he was awake and ignoring Naruto. Either way, Naruto got no reply. He thought about it over and over and over. What exactly would be left for him once 9 Tails chakra was gone? His mother had taught him the answer to that a long, long time ago. The love that Kushina and Minato poured into him had been in there all this time, and now, the new Team 7, Shikamaru, his family, and everyone in the village filled him up with new feelings each and every day. He trained so much and gained a variety of techniques and abilities. But to Naruto, his greatest strength was that he had good friends. He was proud of them from the bottom of his heart. It's okay, Naruto told himself. I'm sure they'll save me tomorrow. Amazing, huh? It really does just keep on burning. It's like, this is way more Land of Fire than our actual Land of Fire, you know? The next day, Ino and Choji each offered up their thoughts looking down on the burning hill from the viewing platform of a commercial building. On the slope blanketed by faded vegetation were orange flames stretching up from inside the earth. A modern cityscape spread out in the south stood in contrast to the simple fields that could be seen to the north. Buildings soared high like they were holding up the sky, and the walkways were covered in closely spaced tiles. "Both of you, come on. We'll go over the plan," Shikamaru called, and Ino and Choji moved away from the glass window. Sadly, the three members of Team Asuma had not taken several trains to the land of Kazuhashi to take in the views. Shikamaru had abruptly called them together the previous night and told them the details of what was going on, and soon they were on the night train bound for the land of Kazuhashi. They had been surprised to learn Naruto was ill with a serious disease, but they had been more shocked by the details of the mission they had been given. Sneaking into the Kengakuin Research Institute? Kengakuin was a neutral international facility that operated outside the favor or influence of any of the 5 great nations. Given its official mission of working toward a world order without interference or profiting from any country, it would be an international scandal if shinobi from the Land of Fire were found to have entered the facility illegally. "That's why we have to do it so no one finds out," Shikamaru said lightly, but also with the understanding that he would be the one most criticized if they were discovered trespassing. As an advisor since the time of the 6th, he bore the greatest burden of risk. Shikamaru pulled out a chair from a table at the cafe in the building. He, Ino, and Choji, and one other mission member sat down around the chic table with carved feet. "Hey, where are the beans in this organic coffee from?" "What? Angakure?" No. Their coffee's awful." "Okay then, this Gyokuro hot tea is fine." Orochimaru clapped the menu closed and thrust it at the server, and then set his elbows on the table and propped his chin up. "So? Calling me all the way out here, this must be quite the serious mission?" "Yes, this mission was a 4-person cell of boar, deer, butterfly, and snake." Ino was nervous and rubbed her bare shoulders in her sleeveless shirt. It was strange to see the criminal who had once planned the downfall of Konoha sitting among her trusted teammates. To be extremely frank, it was hard to make any sense of it. Feigning ignorance and letting Ino's look of protest wash over him, Shikamaru spread pieces of paper out on the table. One was a map of the city with routes marked on it. The other was a rough sketch of the Kengakuin head office. "Our mission is to steal the signs to release the seal on the star that never strays deciphered by the Institute. I told you on the train that the star that never strays refers to a satellite the Sage of 6 Paths launched. The ultra particles hidden inside of it are protected by 2 seals. One keeps the satellite circling the planet. The other is on the vessel with the ultra particles in it. These signs, I thought Sasuke and Sakura brought them back from the astronomical observatory?" Choji cocked his head to one side. "They did," Shikamaru responded. "Unfortunately, the text is really old, and the place with the second set of signs is smudged and impossible to read. That's why we asked the director of the Institute to take a look at it. That would be this Fury who was caught yesterday, right?" "Ino said." Shikamaru nodded. "I made a mistake in giving him map of the heavens. I knew he wasn't on the up and up. But there was no other person who could restore a text that damaged." "Oh my. I could have done it," Orochimaru said, looking upset. Shikamaru stared at him, a complicated look on his face. "I'm not exactly sure you're a person though." He bit back this argument and continued. "Anyway, Fury must have repaired the damage to the ancient text and deciphered it. Otherwise, he couldn't have released the seal on the vessel and gotten the ultra particles out. He must have gotten the signs for both the sky that fell to the earth and the star that never strays, but he still hasn't regained consciousness. And without his testimony, Kengakuin won't admit to the scandal. But we don't have time to argue with them. So we're just going to go in and hack the man's computer," Ino said. "Right," Shikamaru replied. "The text is who knows how many hundreds of years old. There's no way he was sitting there with a magnifying glass, poring over it. The work had to have been done on a computer. Orochimaru, that's why I asked you along. I understand. But don't forget about my compensation, This compensation Orochimaru insisted on was the blueprint for the system Bike Chihara had developed. He apparently wanted to make and ride one of his own. Shikamaru nodded reluctantly. I haven't. He shifted his gaze to Choji and Ino. The Institute firewall won't let anyone in unless they're at a terminal with access authorization. On top of that, Furia's computer has its own individual security. So from here on out, we split into 2 groups. He set a photo down on top of the map. It was of a young man in an expensive-looking suit. This guy's the head of the technology department, Chomin Noto. He's the one with firewall authorization. Choji and I will approach him and get it unlocked one way or another. So then, Ino guessed at her team assignment and gulped as she turned her eyes toward Orochimaru. Ino, you pair up with Orochimaru and break into the Institute, Shikamaru continued. Once we take down the firewall, you hack Furia's computer and get the deciphered sign data. Seeing Ino's face tense up, Orochimaru smiled, pleased. Looking forward to it. We've got until 10 p.m. That's when Naruto and the others will reach the satellite. Hey, so what if we don't make it in time? Choji asked. What if the vessel isn't open when Naruto and them get to it? Sasuke'll smash it, Shikamaru replied easily. The vessel's protected by powerful wards, but there's nothing that guy can't smash. So then we don't really need to do all this sneaking around? Ino said, and Shikamaru was at a loss for words. He glanced at Orochimaru. It's a natural question. Orochimaru pulled his head back and continued coolly. The substance inside the vessel amplifies chakra. If a shinobi like Sasuke, with a vast amount of chakra, were to be showered in it, their chakra vessels would explode and they would die instantly. What, that, Ino stammered. Does Sasuke? He knows. Shikamaru scratched his head, annoyed. Still, he'll happily smash it for Naruto's sake. He's that kind of guy. But if Sasuke does that, then Sakura and Sarada. Ino protested. He honestly believes that everyone will be fine as long as Naruto's around, Shikamaru told her. He seriously doesn't get that. Just like how his family is important to him, he's also important to his family. He's a real idiot, Choji said gently, and Shikamaru nodded his head in agreement. Well, it's a hassle, but this mission's not just to save Naruto. Sasuke's life is also on the line here. We can't mess this one up, huh? Ino said finally. The 3 of them exchanged powerful looks. It had been a long time since all 3 members of the Ino Shikacho team had come together. On top of that, their mission objective involved Naruto and Sasuke, which ignited a bigger fire in their hearts. I apologize for intruding on your passionate little moment, Orochimaru interjected, bringing his teacup and saucer up in front of his chest. But in order to release the seal on the vessel and the satellite, won't you have to go all the way to the land of Ridaku and weave the signs there? In the text, it says you must tarry in the land of Ridaku reveling with the map of the heavens. What if this reveling with the map of the heavens is alluding to weaving the signs hidden in the book? Yeah, it won't work unless the signs are woven in the law Ridaku, Shikamaru agreed. We got someone headed that way now. For a man who generally did not let his feelings show, Orochimaru looked perplexed. This strategy had been decided on the previous night. Even if this someone had set off for Ridaku at the very moment the decision was made, no one could reach the land of Ridaku. He exists. We've got the perfect person for this job. Ino smiled proudly. Someone who can fly faster than anyone, and who'll definitely be able to receive my mind transmission. The bird spread its black ink wings and flew. The fastest flying creature in size cartoon beast mimicry was the Yamanaki goose, a legendary water bird that passed over mountains and rivers with such grace and elegance that it was said to have caused envy in travelers walking along the ground. Its long fluttering tail feathers were particularly beautiful, and its flying figure, supple like that of an angel, had charmed many a painter. Sai was currently working this vision of a bird like a carriage horse. Ki. The Yadanaki let out a short cry and turned its long neck reproachfully towards Sai. It probably wanted a break, but Sai shook his head, his face expressionless, and stroked its inky feathers consolingly. Built for speed, the Yadanaki was meant for carrying letters and packages. It certainly wasn't intended to carry people. The bird struggled to keep flying with its creator Sai on its back. He must have weighed so heavily on the poor creature. I'm pushing it too hard, he thought. But this mission required movement in a mere 20 hours across a distance that would take 20 days on shinobi feet and 2 days at the speed of a hawk. If he didn't push, he wouldn't make it in time. Honestly, I'm a terrible boss. Sai wiped away the sweat beading on his forehead. If the Yadanaki was pushing and straining itself, its creator Sai was also pushing and straining himself. When Shikamaru came to the Umbu office the previous night, he said he'd explain everything later and shoved a map into Sai's hand. Get to this place before 10 p.m. tomorrow night, he said. And the map was just a direction and a distance scribbled onto a piece of straw paper. This distance by 10 tomorrow? This was a bit much, even for an urgent mission. He got the details of the situation while he prepared for the trip. He was surprised to learn that Naruto was seriously ill, and he was also angry that Shikamaru had hidden this from him. But before he had the chance to complain about it, Shikamaru was practically kicking him out the door and on his way. He'd been flying without sleep or a break ever since, with nothing but his compass for guidance. Even with the Yadanaki's flying abilities, it was a gamble whether he'd make it within the specified time. And then when he got there, he had to receive a message from his wife using mind transmission and with some signs. He'd gotten messages from her via mind transmission before, things like, "Please stop by the store on your way home," but this was the first time they have such a great distance between them. Ah. Sai exhaled a shallow breath. It was harder to breathe because they gained altitude so rapidly. They'd long since passed the countries within his familiar cultural sphere, and there was nothing but desolate mountains below them now. It's really there, right? An actual country with people on a place like this. Naruto couldn't relax. He looked over the proposal before his eyes for the 100th time. The cost of equipment accompanying the adoption of the new curriculum of kunai throwing increased 500,000 ryo over last year, adoption of a preferential selection system for the classics lesson and separate collection for teaching. Material costs. Shino had apparently poured her heart into this. Academy budget proposal for the next fiscal year, but the words scattered in all directions on the page when Naruto set his eyes on them. Ah, this is pointless. I'm not getting anything from this. The hands of the clock showed 5:30. Sakura was supposed to come pick him up from the house at 8. I'm heading out. He leaped to his feet. He hadn't met his quota for the day, but he could make it all up with however much overtime was necessary tomorrow once all of this was taken care of. There was no one home when he got there. He belatedly recalled Hinata saying something about taking Himawari over to say hi to her father. Naruto wandered around the empty house. It was all fine and good to have come home, but he still couldn't relax. It had been ages since he even been in the house at this hour on a weekday. He had no idea what to do with himself. He had way too much time on his hands. With no other ideas, he sat down on the sofa and was staring through the TV when Boruto came home. Dad. Boruto's eyes grew wide when he popped his head into the living room. You're early today, huh? Yeah. Well, Naruto said. But sorry, I can't train with you today. It's fine. No big, Boruto said curtly and ran up the stairs to his own room. He seems weird somehow. Is he actually angry I can't train with him? Or did something happen on a mission? His thoughts whirled around in his head. It was hard to figure out his son's feelings. Okay, so. For some reason, Boruto was back in the living room. Problem? What's up? Naruto craned his neck back. Okay. Listen. Boruto stamped his feet in frustration. I know I said all that stuff to you before about you being home more. But I don't care about that anymore. And I'll take care of Mom and Himawari. I'm gonna work real hard, so you can just work hard for the village, Dad. Oh. Naruto finally got it. Boruto was worried that it was his fault that Naruto had been coming home earlier lately. He was apparently embarrassed to be saying all of this to Naruto because the tip of his small nose was colored the slightest bit red. You're a good kid. Naruto let the words that popped into his head slip out of his mouth, and Boruto turned completely red. I'm not good or whatever, he half yelled, kicked Naruto's shin, and then stomped away to his own room. Listening to the loud footfalls, Naruto started laughing. That kid. Always gotta take the hard way. 8 p.m. As promised, Sakura pulled up in front of the Uzumaki house on the system bike. Boruto was surprised by the sound of the engine and ran outside to see what was going on. His eyes flew open when he saw the bike. Whoa! You're riding some serious mecha, Sarada's mom. So cool. It's called a bike, a vehicle for individual mobility, Sakura told him. You don't have to check the schedule and head to the station like when you take the train. You can just go whenever you want. Wow. Does it shoot lasers? Boruto asked, eyes glittering. There might be a model like that in the future, Sakura replied noncommittally. I definitely want to take a ride on that. Boruto cried. I'll get Mitsuki or Shikadai or someone on the back and race around the village. It's not safe riding around the village, Naruto retorted as he stepped out of the house. The fact that he'd raced through the alleys and lanes of the village with Chihara riding behind him was a secret. Where's everyone else? Sasuke went on ahead to the training ground. Master Kakashi and Commander Yamato might be a little late, Sakura said. I guess they were up all night practicing. Said they used all their chakra and their energy, so they were dead asleep until just a little bit ago. Yeah? Sakura noticed Naruto's face stiffen slightly and smiled. What? You? Nervous? Of course not. Naruto denied the charge over-enthusiastically, yanked the goggles he had around his neck up above his forehead, and straddled the bike behind Sakura. Chihara had been gradually making improvements to her design, and now there was a speedometer and a brake lever that hadn't been on the prototype. The biggest change was the conversion device added to the engine. Chakra in the cartridge was changed into Kazahashi gas to supply fuel to the tank, dramatically increasing the mileage. It could now go about 2,000 kilometers on one fully charged cartridge. It's got brakes now, huh? Naruto noted. Yup. But it can't stop suddenly. You have to slow down and then come to a stop. Sakura put a foot on the pedal and pulled the lever. The engine roared to life, and the bike pulled forward in a stable movement. Thanks to the tweaks Chihara had made, it was much more pleasant to ride than it had been on his last trip. Dad's so lucky. Boruto watched them go, enraptured. The bike arrived at the training ground in no time flat. Sasuke wasn't the only one there. Kakashi and Yamato had also arrived, but they looked sleepy, like they had just woken up. They were putting their backs together, pulling on each other's arms, doing stretches. I need to hook you up to some supplemental oxygen, Sakura said. Naruto, Sasuke, show me your stomachs. Both men did as they were told and lifted their shirts. Sakura inserted an 4-needle into the chakra channel next to Sasuke's belly button and followed it with one in a vein on his side. The needles were connected through the pluripotent applicator hanging from his belt. It would change the chakra collected from the channel into oxygen and supply that directly to his bloodstream. Since Naruto couldn't supply chakra himself, she connected him to Sasuke's chakra channel as well. This was the ultra-compact oxygen supply device that Chihara had stayed up all night making. No matter what, the two of you make sure to stay together. If the two comes out, Naruto will lose his oxygen supply. Sakura painted quick-drying cement on the base of the needles to fix them in place. Now they'd be able to breathe even 200 kilometers up in the air. In theory. End of chapter 4. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.